And Friends comes away with a rebound and a chance to take the lead. 33-32, Emerlehu going for the lead from the left wing. Emerlehu with the triple on the move, ready to run her from 8 feet. No, Jackson snares down the miss and then puts it home for the right side. Jackson in double figures for Friends. Trey Reed looking inside, off to Emerlehu, turns down to 3, kicks it left wing to Trey Reed. He drives in the lane, now to the rim, scoops it up and in, and he got fouled. 7. Tabor ahead with 1:40 to go in overtime. Here's Garner, strong move to the cup on Zoe Rust. She throws it up and makes it, and she gets fouled for one more. Friends ahead, Barberry goes up, and he flushes it down. Barberry taking flight and getting a body in the process.
What's going on, everyone? Voice of the Friends Falcons here with another edition of the Friends Basketball Show on ESPN Wichita 92.3 FM. Doing it from the ESPN Wichita studio today. We figured that we would give walk-ons the day off. No need to deal with me. No need to deal with Dean Jaderston. None of that stuff. But we do appreciate Walk-On Sports Bistro. They are great supporters of Friends University Athletics. They are the home of our shows on a regular basis. But this week, it's also Turkey Day, so things are a little bit different. But look, when you're out and about and you're doing some Black Friday shopping, or if you're just doing some holiday shopping this weekend, stop on by Walk-On Sports Bistro. They have terrific food. They have that game day atmosphere, and they also have the game day food with a twist. It is Walk-On Sports Bistro over on Mays Road. Go and see them and tell them that we sent you there as well. Well, lots to like about Friends basketball at this point. The men's basketball team getting a win on Saturday. The Friends men's basketball team 1-1, but tonight we are focusing on the Friends women's basketball program under head coach Dean Jaderston, and he has to be happy with what he has seen in the first 2 games in conference play. An 84-61 win at Kansas Wesleyan would have been last Wednesday, and then this past weekend, the KCAC home opener, a win over McPherson 79-48. After a little bit of Turkey, Friends will return to take on Columbia College on the road, a ranked Columbia team, starting at noon on Saturday. So we'll talk about all those things with Coach here today. Coach, thank you so much for joining me. I know it's a little bit different. You are on a video screen, which is a little bit different than most, but certainly excited to be talking to you. And, man, what a great start to the season with you guys, those couple of wins.
It is it's you just never know what's going to happen when conference starts. And before we go any further, I'd love to just give a shout out to Coach McClintock. That first KCAC win's a big one, and it was a great come from behind win, one of the most fun basketball games I've watched in a while. So congrats to Phil. He's doing a phenomenal job, and I think he's going to have a really dangerous team by the end of the season. But yeah, our season, getting the conference kicked off, you just don't know. You don't know how kids are going to respond because the intensity kicks up another level. You're playing in front. Sometimes you go on the road and you're 3-4 hours away. You don't have the pressures of as many friends and locals around, but now everybody's there and the lights are on, and how are kids going to respond? And so I was very, very pleased and very proud of how our team in both games managed kind of the ebb and flow of the game, and you can't beat starting 2-0. So we're pretty happy going into the break here.
Yeah, no doubt. And you kick things off from a conference perspective, going up to Salina to take on a Kansas Wesleyan team that is traditionally pretty good. And if you look at the Coyotes and what they had in their non-conference schedule, they almost pulled off a win against Morningside, a very good Morningside team. I know this past weekend they took down Evangel, and they were down by double digits, came back to win that one. And then you look at some of their other games too, like they just have a very, very tough schedule, and it's a tough place to play. Coach Ryan Showman, I know he always has that team ready to rock and roll. They're always going to fight and scrap. And with the game tied at 54 all going into the fourth quarter, it comes down to who's going to play the next best stretch of basketball in a 10-minute span. And turns out you guys are able to do it with a 30-point fourth quarter. How did that all come together, Coach, in the final 10 minutes of action in Salina?
Yeah, it's that's that game. I went back and watched it, and sometimes people forget the game is a 40-minute game. It's not 5 minutes here. It's not the first 5 minutes. There's things that happen in the first quarter that end up making a difference in the third and fourth quarter, and there's these momentum swings in games that you don't see the whole picture until you get it all put together at the end. And K-Dub has some really good guards. They've got experience, they've got quickness, they shoot it, and that was the intriguing thing. Our guards are new, and so they're still learning to play together and trying to find that continuity and when do you pass and when do you score, and so we're still working through that a little bit. They came out and they hit their first, I think it was 7 shots, and they were all 3-pointers and jumpers, and you could just see our team, who hadn't quite been there yet, together in that situation. And it's like, weather the storm. They're not going to shoot like this the whole game. If they do, nothing you do is going to matter. It's just if somebody makes shots every time they put it up, no matter what you're doing, they're just going to have one of those nights. But sure enough, we weathered the storm and we learned to battle back. And I think that was the biggest or the biggest takeaway for us in this game. We can battle back. We just keep doing what we do. Trust your teammates. And we got it back to tie game, and then we went down again. We got it back to a tie game, and we went down again. And each time then we surged, and we had that final surge going into the fourth quarter. It's like, okay, we've gone back and forth. Now it's time to push ahead. And they went on a roll, and they started looking for each other. It was one of those things. A couple of our kids who early in the season who were new, like, where am I going to get my shots? How am I going to get it? All of a sudden the ball is getting to them in rhythm and they're hitting shots. I think we hit 4 straight threes at one point. But you could just see some of those things that they've been working on all season finally come together. And the barn doors blew off, and it was a 30-7 run.
Dean Jaderston, head women's basketball coach at Friends University, here on the Friends Basketball Show on ESPN Wichita. We are kicking off the show by recapping a win on the road in Salina against Kansas Wesleyan, an 84-61 victory over the Coyotes to start the season 1-0 in conference play. Coach, I know you can take a look at Raylan Gardner and take a look at what she did in that game. I was talking to the voice of the Coyotes afterward, and he was like, "Holy cow, you did not prepare me for Ray." I was like, "She's pretty quick, ain't she?" And he was like, "Yes, very, very quick, very, very tough to stop." And she had just another magnificent game on the road. I know, last year it was not great not to have her in that second semester, but this year you just never know. Sometimes it might take a few games to get in the swing of things, but to start conference play like that with 20+ points and very efficient from the field, that's something that you gotta like to see as a head coach.
This year the luxury of having Ray, she gets you points that you don't have to plan for. We just get buckets sometimes. She'll get out in transition, or she'll get the ball on the wing. She'll get to the rim, and she's got such a quick second jump. I don't know how many times she gets there, gets fouled. She's so quick, the foul sometimes doesn't get called, but she's able to get her rebound and put it back. She's got great body control, and she wants to get better. That's the fun part. I feel like every day she's learning new things, and I see things that we've talked about and she's trying to put into play. So she works on her perimeter game a little bit. She's working on adding a 3-point shot. That'll make her scary dangerous. Yeah, she's a difference maker for us this year for sure.
Well, and also too, I know you're going to look at the very top of the point list, and that's kind of where your eyes always gravitate to. But like I was telling you on Saturday when we were just kind of touching base before the game against McPherson, I told you that Jaden Glasgow was such a big reason to why you guys were able to be in that game. When you guys were down a couple different times, she started a 7-0 run. I think there was one time she had 5 points in a row on one of them. So I know she's a new player. She's a transfer from Briar Cliff. Talked about her before. Sometimes transfers get a little bit of time in order to try to actually fit in the system. but to be able to be on the road in that situation, to jumpstart a couple different runs, to keep you in the hunt. Because if you guys are down by 15 points going into the fourth quarter, it's way different than being tied at 54 all. So you got to have those spurts throughout the games. And there's no doubt that Jaden Glasgow was able to provide that on Wednesday last week.
Yeah, every time she took the floor, she got us up to tempo. When you are down or you're a little hesitant, all your timing gets off. And Jaden came on the floor and was back cutting hard and was flashing hard. She just picked up the pace of the game, and the rest of the team met her at that level instead of them pulling her back down. And all of a sudden, we found the pace that we could play comfortably at, the pace we could guard at. She got her hands on some loose balls and some deflections, and she just changed the tempo of the game. And she's a fun one. Again, just getting here, learning a lot of new things. But she brings that spark and energy off the bench. You always want somebody who's going to come in and just lift the energy of the team. And Jaden does that each time she comes on the floor.
Dean Jaderston, our guest here for the Friends Basketball Show on ESPN Wichita, 92.3 FM, 84-61 win to open up conference play in Salina against Kansas Wesleyan. And then that leads us to the game on Saturday, a 79-48 finish. However, if you just stopped and looked at that score, just kind of like the Kansas Wesleyan score, I guess, if you would have just stopped and looked at the score, you would have thought, all right, Friends was in control the entire game. Well, on Saturday against McPherson, it was a 23-all tie there in the second quarter. And you were telling me with such a young group that Josh Nichols has, sometimes you could look at that and maybe not be locked in from the get-go. I felt like you guys were locked in from the get-go. It's just Mac was able to come back. They fought. They tied it at 23-all. Then he had that 8-0 flurry at the very end of the first half, capped by a Taylor Jackson three-pointer of all things, which that just cracks me up. And then a monster third quarter in order to regain control and regain the lead. And then you guys were able to lead comfortably the rest of your way. After a couple days to sit and think about it, what really stood out to you in that game on Saturday?
Everybody who plays college basketball, they can make shots, they can play. There's a reason they are where they are. And even though they have a young team, Josh has them fighting really, really hard and competing hard. We came out, got exactly the buckets we wanted to get in the first. I think Taylor had 2 baskets. Ray got to the rim a couple times, missed, but we were getting open looks for her. We got off to a really good start. And then sometimes what happens is when your team feels like they're a little more superior athletically, we were much bigger than they were. You try and rely just on your athleticism, and you play a lot more individualistic. And we went through from the end of the first quarter to probably the 6 or 7 minute mark of the second quarter. We played really individualistic. We looked for our own shots. We had, I think, only 1 assist during that whole stretch. And it was just this growing pains that young teams have to go through. It's like, okay, if you play this way, anybody can beat you. If you decide to play the way that's going to make you champions, then all of a sudden they can't play with you. And that last minute and a half run, we got back to some really good execution. We put a different group back on the floor, and I think we had more assists in that minute and a half than we did in the first half combined, the rest of the half combined. So they started playing again, and that was the halftime message. You have to play the way you play best, and you can't change it just because you're playing a better team or a worse team. We have to rebound with our guards, and we have to move the ball. And second half, they came out, and again, I thought we were pretty focused. We played pretty tight as a unit, and again, the assists increase second half, and the ball moves, and people move, and you get some pretty fun highlights out of that.
Is Taylor clamoring for more 3-point opportunities now after nailing that first one there on Saturday?
I told Jazz we got to talk Taylor into not shooting it anymore, because then she'll have the leading 3-point percentage in the history of no. Taylor, here's the fun part about Taylor. 3-point shooting is not her strength. And if you do a 3-point shooting drill, she's not going to show real well. But if we're doing a competition where the time's running down, when the ball hits her hands with 2 seconds to go, she hits those shots. It's crazy. I remember when she was a freshman, the first time we ran something and we're in practice, we're competing, and somebody, there's a loose ball, and they get it, they kick it out to Taylor, and she just drills the 3, and everybody just kind of, their jaws drop. But she's a gamer. When the game's on the line, she's going to go make some plays, and that was a huge momentum piece to go into halftime with a lot of energy, even though we hadn't played our best. That's the other thing that you have to learn. You're going to have bad quarters and bad halves and even bad games over the course of a long conference season. Can you still win those games? Can you leave a bad quarter behind or a bad half behind and come out and change the script second half? And that was a good test for us to say, okay, that half's done. It's over. We've learned from it. Fresh start, third quarter. Let's go play ball. And hopefully we take that into the future and keep playing that way in the second half.
Friends women's basketball coach Dean Jaderston here on the Friends Basketball Show on ESPN Wichita. Friends 2-0 to open conference play following a win on Saturday against McPherson, 79-48. Lauren McIver, I want to ask about her a little bit more, Coach, because I felt like her aggressiveness was really an important thing to have on Saturday. We've always talked about her ability to guard. She's very long, and I think that can also be very deceiving for some people. But when you see her on the offensive side, I think that's the one thing I've been trying to figure out. All right, how's she going to fit offensively? I think I know where she's going to fit defensively. She's going to compete as being the top on-ball defender this year. What is she going to look like from an offensive standpoint when you do have a Taylor, you do have a Raylan Gardner, you have a Corey Babcock, you have some of those different pieces? Well, on Saturday, I think we saw a little bit of what she can be like, and that is, man, if she gets to the rim and she finds those creases, she's going to be really tough to slow down. Your thoughts on Lauren and what she was able to bring to you on Saturday?
Yeah, Lauren's another one who just keeps getting better. And one of the things I found out about Lauren is she's so coachable. You can challenge her and she responds. She wants so much to make this team better. If I look at her from the first game against Hastings to now, it's like coaching 2 different players. And that's really fun. Lauren is still trying to find the balance. When do I look to score as a point guard? When do I distribute the ball? And our whole team, when you get new players, if I give it up, is the ball going to come back? And that's always a question every player wonders. Are my teammates going to move the ball? Are they going to share the ball? And do you get those possessions where the ball goes all the way around and the person who started the sequence ends up getting the shot? And so early on, Lauren was pressing a little hard. She felt she had to score. When she doesn't have to score, then she's a really good scorer in our system because she's open and she's moving the ball. She gets to the lane so well. She's quicker than she looks because she runs so smooth. And as she gets more and more comfortable in that role, that's when I think you're really going to see her take off. We are playing around a little bit, sometimes moving Corey to the 1 and Lauren to the 2 to put her in that scoring role a little bit more. So that's a work in progress. And if it works, then you can look at bad coaching in the first 5 or 6 games of the season and having people in the wrong positions. But we're trying different things. And that's a fun part of this team as the season goes on. We've got some flexibility. We'll hopefully get Cassie back here in a week or 2, and that'll add some more strength up front, and we can try some different rotations there as well. So it's a long haul, lots of things, but Lauren's another one of those players like Ray. Sometimes she can just get you a bucket. And when you're at the end of the game and everybody knows your offenses because they've scouted you and they know your tendencies, you just got to have a couple players who can go make a basketball play.
Yeah, and she can certainly do that, and then some multiple times. I guess I'll be curious. I think that's a good way to put it too. Your team is so versatile. There's a lot of versatility with this team. You have the ability to pound in the paint, but you also have the ability to go out on the edge and hit some threes. You have the ability to attack the rim. There's a lot to like about this year's team for sure. And just wait until you start to get some of these other players a little bit more adjusted as well. On Saturday, I told you that to me, one player that will probably be overlooked on Saturday would be Amy Mitchell. And I felt like she gave you a spark when you needed a spark. And I know she's a kid that transferred in I know she's still getting adjusted, but just looking at her, I'm like, man, she just made a really good drive to the basket. And that's a tough finish there to kind of jumpstart a run for you guys here in the second quarter.
Yeah.
And then Ashlyn Ryall was able to hit a three-pointer in the game on Saturday as well. Although it might just show on the stat sheet as a combined 5 points, 7 points, whatever it might be, those 7 points in the grand scheme of things at that time proved to be pretty darn vital. So Ashlyn, Amy, those two players for your bunch, your thoughts on what they were able to do on Saturday against McPherson?
Yeah, that's what you have to have in a team. And I'll even go back in the KW game. There was a moment we hadn't hit a three. We were struggling. We were down. I put Ellie Munns in for 2 minutes, and she goes 1 for 1 from three. And all of a sudden, the basket gets a little bit bigger. And we didn't have good defensive matchups with her in that game. So that was her only stretch, but it was huge to turn some momentum there. And basketball is a momentum game. You can go on a run, and a call or a shot or a play can completely change the whole direction of the game. And Amy did that for sure against Mac. Amy's one whose ball skills are really good. Her finishing skills are good. She just continues to learn how to play with 4 new teammates. And that's the biggest challenge for her. But when we figure out the best spaces for her, she gives us an offensive punch off the bench that when she goes in the game, every touch has a chance for us to get a bucket. Ashlyn is this. In practice, she will play 1 through 5 if we need her for a particular drill or whatever. She knows everything that's going on. Ashlyn is one of those players who is great for a coach and frustrating for a coach, because sometimes you're trying to get her to go a little bit quicker, but then she always ends up in the right spot. And she gets more deflections. She gets more steals because she's got such a high basketball IQ. I can put her in at the 1 and we settle down a little bit. We just run our stuff. I put her at the 2 or 3, and all of a sudden she stretches the floor and hits the 3. So there's just this multi-dimensional piece for her, and she can turn something. At the end of the season last year, she had a couple big games where we needed some shooting, and she just stretched the floor. So again, as she and new teammates, they all start connecting. There's different spaces at different games and different times where we need everybody ready to go.
Dean Jaderston, our guest here for the Friends Basketball Show on ESPN Wichita. Friends women's basketball 2-0 in conference play following those 2 wins, 4-1 overall for the season. Coming up next, after Little Turkey, a road trek to Columbia to take on a ranked Columbia team. Coach, I feel like I take a look at this non-con, and you went out and you made sure to get some challenging games on the schedule to see what's going on. And look no further than Columbia. Columbia always seems to be a pretty good program from a women's basketball perspective. How important is it to get that game in after getting a couple of hours of just feeding on turkey and all that wonderful stuff?
Yeah. What it does is it gets us back in rhythm before conference starts up again. And you play against top opponents like that, you have to play quicker, faster, stronger. What it does is it sets the bar. This is where we want to play at. And you got to go win those kind of games on the road. So I'm excited. They can shoot it. They got, I think, 3 kids who are shooting at 40% or better from 3. They got some inside post play, some kids that just get to the basket and they finish. And it's their home court, and that's a hard place to play. I've coached a number of games there in Columbia, and they get that local pep band rocking, and they get a lot of people out from the community, and you have to handle that kind of road adversity, which gets you ready to go on the road to the conference. So hopefully our kids stay in shape. They'll have a couple of days off, and they'll get a good run or 2 in on their own over Thanksgiving break. We'll practice a couple times on Friday, and then ramp it up at noon on Saturday. So I'm excited to see them play at that level, compete. You know, we started the season on the road at Hastings, and you could tell we just weren't ready for that yet. And so now, after we've gone through, okay, we're a different team. Let's see how we play on the road, and let's go win one of these and get ourselves being looked at as a team to contend with wherever we go.
Yeah. And something else to bring up too, you open up conference play in Salina at Kansas Wesleyan. You come back from Thanksgiving to go to Lindsborg to take on the Bethany Sweets. You then, the next road game, you go to Leavenworth to take on St. Mary. And it's just like, man, you look at all these road games right on the shoot from a conference perspective. And I know it's still early, and the goal is to win a KCAC championship. That's always the case. Defending your home floor is very important, but if you can get some of these important road wins, it can change the complexion of the season. So you have Bethany coming back. I know it's a different coach, but it's a coach that's been a part of that program and knows how to run things. They're always going to guard you really tough. They have probably one of the more dynamic players in Armani Poling, who can really just cross you over and make you look silly. She's just a very, very smooth basketball player. So your thoughts on the Bethany Swedes, and then after that you take on Ottawa inside the Garvey Center. I know the Braves this year, they have a new head coach as well. And then you got St. Mary, and we all know what St. Mary is going to be like. So your thoughts on the upcoming games in the KCAC?
Well, this is just basically last year's KCAC tournament all over again. Go to Bethany, play Ottawa, and then play St. Mary. So that's a stretch we're a little bit familiar with. I think playing at Bethany and playing at St. Mary are probably two of the hardest venues to compete because of this travel or atmosphere or whatever the case may be. Bethany definitely, and again, Bethany's 2-0, St. Mary's 2-0. So there's, I think, 4 teams that are tied at 2-0 right now in the conference. So at the end of that 3-game stretch, you're going to start to see a little separation and clarity in conference play. Bethany has almost all their players back. They lost a little bit of their size, and Sarah's doing a good job coaching them up this year. They've played very well. Poling, you're right, is absolutely dynamic. The one good thing there is she's a driver, and we got somebody in the lane named Taylor Jackson who is very good against drivers. So that's always an interesting battle to watch. And Taylor, I think, had her career high of block shots last year playing Bethany. So we'll see how that game goes. The key in the Bethany game is taking care of the basketball. They're going to try and press us. They're going to just throw tons of guards out there. If we can withstand our regular season game against them last year, I think we had 30 plus turnovers. And if we take care of the ball, we'll do really, really well. So that's that one. You can't let up though, because then Ottawa's hungry and they're trying to figure things out. They got a lot of energy and some new players. And then at St. Mary, that is a repeat of the conference championship game last year, and hopefully maybe a preview of a conference championship game this year, but we'll see what happens. But they have incredibly talented guards. They brought some kids back for their 5th year. So they're pretty much the same team except for 2 players. And we match up a little better, I think. We've got a little more punch this year, and it should be an awfully good stretch of basketball. But we also have to learn, when that 3-game stretch is over, you can't back off, because every team in the conference is capable of getting somebody on a given night. And so you prepare the same, you wrap up the same, you go through your next 2 days of practice the same, and you just build that rhythm that's going to sustain us all the way through the season.
For sure. All right, Coach, thank you so much for your time, and enjoy Thanksgiving. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you. You too.
Dean Jaderston, the head women's basketball coach at Friends University, here on the Friends Basketball Show on ESPN Wichita. The Friends women's basketball team 2-0 in conference play. They will return from Thanksgiving with a road trip to Columbia. Then after that, Bethany College on November 29th. They take on Ottawa. That's the next home game for Friends women's basketball. 5:00 start time against the Ottawa Braves on December 2nd. Well, we're not at Walk On Sports Bistro today, but go out and support Walk On Sports Bistro if you are out and about Black Friday shopping, wherever it might be. We all know Maze Road is very popular for shopping. Stop on by Walk On Sports Bistro and get some of the great food out that way, or just stop on by, take a break, and watch some games. They have plenty of TVs. They have a game day atmosphere and some great game day food with a Southern twist. Well, that does it for our latest Friends Basketball Show. On behalf of Dean Jaderston, I'm Pat Strathman saying so long. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and we'll see you again next time for another edition of the Friends Basketball Show.